I was not prepared for how bad this game would be. If Zoloft is an antidepressant, then Star Wars Outlaws is a pro-depressant, one that perfectly emulates the feeling of misery and apathy. The stealth is a bigger joke than Jar Jar. The speeder battles are more embarrassing than Rian Johnson's plot twists. The combat is awful, partly because they made Kay's blaster weaker than Kathleen Kennedy's integrity. Power! I have so much power in this gun. Oh, yeah, and the game crashes more than a Vecnoid in a pod race. But I must admit that the universe itself is super interesting. It's oozing with wonderful Star Wars vibes and jaw-dropping scenery. But then once you start to look beneath the surface, the entire galaxy falls apart faster than a J.J. Abrams movie.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
And as I kept playing, Outlaws just got worse and worse. I truly felt as though I had been ripped off, that I had been duped again by Ubisoft's corporate Greedo. This game is the opposite of Starfield in the sense that the first 10 hours are its strongest. Because in the beginning, I actually thought this game was pretty cool. The atmosphere was immaculate, the music was fantastic. I truly felt like I was walking around in Star Wars. Whoa, that's Harrison's Ford. I soaked up all the scenery, I played Sabacc and won. I bet on a horse race and won. Nice. They got these playable arcade games that you can mess around with, and oh, look at that, I got the high score. Yippee! Having these in the game is a really nice touch. I also enjoyed the lockpicking minigame. I thought it was one of the most engaging lockpicking mechanics I'd ever encountered. It's kind of like a little rhythm game where you need to time your clicks with the blinking of the light, but that got old pretty quick, and it didn't take this game too long to start showing its cracks. I love jank. It's funny. That's pretty good. Jankiness like this is a large part of what motivates me to play through such a trashy game. And I captured so many janky clips that I don't think I'll be able to fit all of them into this video. Whoa!
Some wind.
It's windy in this bar. So I had to dedicate an entire section to it. Oh! Like the conversations that the enemies have are so unnatural.
You won't believe what I found in my food this morning.
My squad was pinned down by a rooftop sniper. Called in an ADST to bring the whole building down.
I spent so much time listening to conversations in this game that I actually picked up on some Star Wars slang. And it's clear to me that Ubisoft are as clueless as a Hapabor on spice. Enemies get stuck in the air after you punch them out. Sometimes they'll turn the wrong way when you punch them. Enemies will just clip inside of each other. It's beautiful to see when two become one like that. May the intercourse be with you. Sometimes the game will just flat out refuse to play the correct animation. What? And because of the jankiness, the presentation is completely scuffed. Like, there was a point in the story, it's supposed to be real dramatic, where Nix, the little dog that you have, gets kidnapped, right? And so Kay is interrogating this guy to figure out where Nix is.
All right. I guess it's being sold to Jabba, but you'll never...
Oh, look at that, I found him, he's right there. Oh, he was there, but he disappeared. Sometimes the entire mission can disappear right before your very eyes. Oh, okay. What?
Good work.
What? Sometimes the audio would cut in and out during a transmission.
Did you find Haas?
Forget Haas. He lost Nix. I'm getting him back.
From the Hutt?
Yes.
Which, as far as I understand, that would have been really easy for Ubisoft to program out of the game. It would have taken them literally 2 minutes to just give all their characters a mod mic. Today's sponsor.
Do yourself a favor and get yourself a mod mic. When you do it and speak through it, then your vocals will be godlike. Attach it to the side of every single headset. When you use the patent pending sticky little magnet, it's perfect for a gamer if their headset might be broken. Let your homies hear your call-outs every time they are spoken. Goes in the controller via 3.5mm, $60 price tag. You know it ain't no wallet either. Listen up, you all might require this. A fully charged modern mic can easily be wireless. The battery be lasting me for half a day. It's tireless. Conveniently, it eases me so now I can perspire. Listen, how can we forget about the noise cancellation? Now the homies won't be bothered by the screams of your creation. For real.
My wife's out of town. I'm so sorry about this.
Be sure to use my link in the description or the pinned comment to get yourself a mod mic. Big thanks to Mod Mic for the sponsorship. Now let's get back to the video. So this game has a reputation system, which was one of Outlaw's biggest selling points. And here's how it works. There are 4 criminal factions in this game that you can choose to level up, but leveling up one faction will cause you to lose reputation with another faction. You see, it's meant to be this ebb and flow. A thoughtful push and pull for the player to constantly change allegiances to suit whatever their current needs might be. It's a cool idea for sure, and had it been done correctly, it would have been an amazing addition to the game. However, I was able to completely break this entire mechanic. I did it like this. You can increase a faction rep in one of 2 ways, completing a side quest or completing a contract. The problem with completing a side quest is that no matter what, at the end of the mission, you're always going to lose reputation with another faction. But this isn't the case with the contract missions. You see, at the end of a contract mission, you can either choose to honor the deal you made or go against that deal for extra credits. Going against that deal will lower your reputation with one of the other factions in the game. But if you keep your end of the deal every single time, you'll never lose any faction rating. So if you play like a good girl, you can get every single faction up to good, excellent, or even max them all out if that's what you want to do. Now, this method of abusing the game did come with some strings attached. I had to completely avoid all of the side quests and only do contracts because, like I said, at the end of a side mission, it'll always take reputation away from another one of the factions, which we don't want because if a faction rank ever gets too low, you can't fast travel to any of that faction's regions. And on top of that, if you had a poor rating with a faction and happened to stumble into that faction's territory, you wouldn't be able to explore their portion of the map without being forced to engage in the game's awful combat, which just makes exploring that part of the map much more time-consuming and completely de-incentivizes the player to explore, which is a shame because exploring the environments is the only thing worth doing in this game. So because of these limitations, I wholeheartedly believe that abusing the faction system in this way was an absolute requirement for my playthrough, especially because your choices really don't matter at all. They amount to nothing more than a different character model popping up on one of the final cutscenes of the game, and that's it. In Outlaws, there are 2 modes of travel, space and speeder. Space travel is neither elite nor dangerous, and the speeder you're given is actually pretty fun to drive around. It's got a handbrake on there that'll allow you to drift, which feels really cool, but none of the map design accommodates this ability. It's got a boost function, and it can jump, which is nice, but none of the map design accommodates this ability. And of course, in classic Ubisoft fashion, you can have your speeder spawn on you with the simple press of a button. Oh, the speeder leaving me when I call it. The worst part about the speeder is that when you get into it, the camera automatically points up towards the sky, so you can't really see anything that's in front of you. The camera.
Good job. I lost them.
Now this is incredibly stupid. It's the equivalent of getting into your car and staring up at the sky to drive. So to correct the camera, you need to hold down right-click to rotate the camera and center it in a place that feels better for you. But if you let go of right-click, the camera goes back to looking at the sky. So you've always got to hold down right-click when you're scooting. Now you spend a lot of time on your scooter traversing these bland and empty environments because there's hardly any fast travel spots out there in the wild, which is just another reason why cheesing the faction system is so important. Now, Kay Vess isn't the worst character, but she's certainly not the best. She's sassy, spunky, and individualistic. She's got no crew.
You've got no crew, Kay.
Kay is completely on her own. She's
solo.
And she don't need no help from nobody.
Take some credits. For the data spike.
I'm good.
Then I'll put it towards your rent.
I said I'm good, Bram.
But then literally 2 seconds after she's had this conversation, she's trying to bum some free food off this Ahsoka lady.
Smells a little heavy on the bunta spice. Want me to taste that for you?
Forget it, Kay. I don't care what Bram says. Go freeload somewhere else.
This, to me, instantly negated her character that they tried to establish, and just kind of shows how strong the writers are over there at Ubisoft. So I didn't like Kay, but I also didn't dislike her. She's kind of a tuca cat who ate the bula bird. The most notable thing about Kay Vess is she doesn't have any chubbies. But here's what I do find strange. They hired an actual model named Humberly González.
Hi, my name is Humberly González, and I play Kay Vess in Star Wars Outlaws.
But for some reason, they downplayed her appearance when they put her into the game. This is a decision that I don't understand. All I know is if I were Humberly, I would be insulted. But regardless, I'm a simple fella. I still think Kay Vess is beautiful. In fact, I was so overcome by her beauty, I just had to write a song about it.
Girl, I like your waist and all the features on your face. Those glassy eyes are as gorgeous as the skies. They may never blink, which puts me on the brink. 'cause I'm falling in love with you. Who has the chain of a man, an non-existent memory glance, bones inside of both of your cheeks look like they've been both out for weeks. Oh baby, your eyebrows make me aroused. I'm writing wedding vows. That mullet hair and your face, oh so square. Girl, it's such a waste that you are out in space, 'cause I'm falling in love with you. Who's from Canto, right? But this I can't all buy. You've so much spunk, still in junk from the trunk. Yet still I love your skin, glistening like a clean tin bin. Guess I'm falling in love with you. I'm falling in love with you. You.
Stealth is an absolute joke in this game, a VARP farmer to our intelligence. Guys will literally look at you and go to investigate the last spot they saw you at, except sometimes they'll get lost on their way over to you.
This area is pikes only.
He literally just saw me, then turned around. Sometimes when they see you, they'll just immediately forget about you.
What the? We need to see what that was. Hey! You're not supposed to be here! Let's take a look.
Oh, she just forgot. Stealth is mainly a bonk fest. You approach a bad guy from the back, and you attack with a smack. But because the AI is so bad, it got old pretty much instantly. But if you get sick of knocking guys in the back of the head, Ubisoft made sure to shake things up by giving you these security cameras that you got to evade. Whew, that one almost saw me. Once you unlock an ability called Fast Talk, the stealth becomes an even bigger joke. The name would lead you to assume that this ability would have Kay talking fast.
Hey there.
And Mayor, eh?
Well, to be fair, she did say those two words very quickly. Her verbosity is boundless.
Look out.
Huh? I'm warning you.
And what makes this ability even dumber is, if you break line of sight after using Fast Talk, the enemy loses complete track of you. So as you can see, there's not much to the stealth here, but you'll want to be a sneaky Susan a majority of the time you're playing, because if you get caught by the Imperials, you will become wanted, which just means they're going to send death squads at you. Well, they don't actually send them at you. They spawn them across the map, turn off fast travel, and expect you to go to them. And if you don't, well then the enemies are never going to stop coming at you. Additionally, if you're sneaking around a restricted zone at a faction's territory and get caught, you will lose faction rating as well. This is why remaining stealthy is extremely important, especially since the combat is not fun. So generally when I got caught, I would just load up an old save. What? What a load! What a load! So in combat, the blaster you get is super weak. It takes multiple headshots to kill an enemy. In fact, it's so weak that it takes more than one shot to destroy a glass bottle. There's a significant amount of bloom, which forces you to pace your shots, which makes stun locking the enemy the best course of action. Later on, you do get some upgrades to your blaster that make it better, which does make the combat more bearable, but not by much. Now, having a bad blaster encourages you to pick up enemy weapons off the ground, all of which are far superior to the pea shooter in Kay's vest. I think this was intentional. It's meant to feel like this Uncharted-esque seat-of-your-pants thrill ride, where you're constantly popping out of cover and rolling around to grab new weapons. But it always just devolves into decade-old cover-based shooting. What's worse is you can't bring a weapon from one encounter into the next one, because little Miss Butterfingers here is always dropping her gun. And even IGN agrees with me on this one.
However, what really irks me about Outlaws' approach to secondary weapons is how much it goes out of its way to make you drop them. Do a melee attack? Drop your weapon. Crawl into a vent? Drop your weapon. Climb a wall or a ladder? Drop your weapon. Who programmed this?
The grenades are worthless. Not a single one of them perished. There's absolutely no reason to use them, giving you even less options in combat, stripping the game of even more depth. The camera will swap from one shoulder to the other without the player's permission when you get too close to walls when you're aiming down sights. The camera does that.
We're pinned, Nick.
Like, I can't control it. And of course, to no one's surprise, the enemy AI is dumber than ever. You can literally run circles around them. They like to run out in the open, or climb ladders at the worst times.
Glad that's over.
Same. They turn their backs to you, or get confused when they're trying to retreat.
Oh, I almost forgot. There's also wildlife that you can kill, and it goes a little something like this. Wait, are you recording?
So speeder combat is absolutely broken. I don't think I had one encounter that wasn't embarrassing. But to call what you're seeing on screen right now speeder combat would be disingenuous, because first of all, you can't even run people over in your speeder. And secondly, you can't even shoot while driving your speeder. Well, technically you can, but you gotta wait until this little adrenaline bar fills up. Once it's full, you can stop time, mark all the enemies, and let Kay Vess kill everybody for you, turning her into a speeder deleter.
So I found this ridiculous article where a developer at Ubisoft described why they didn't implement speeder battles into the game, and their reasoning goes as follows. If we made it so that you can free aim and shoot, then we'd also have to then make the speeder drive nicely when you're not looking forward. It makes a lot of sense that they didn't put that into the game, because it's not like they could have copy and pasted that from Far Cry. Remember those games where you could turn around and aim and shoot behind you while the car drives nicely when you're not looking forward? Why? Like, what are you doing? They're as incompetent as the high schooler that made this.
At the beginning of the game, you steal a ship, but Kay crashes it and it gets busted. So you need to go get some parts to get it all fixed up.
There. She can fly now.
She flies now. Space combat is probably the worst part of this game. All you do is lock onto the enemy ships by holding right-click, then you empty all of your blasters and missiles into them until you overheat.
This is Red Leader holding right-click to find the TIE Fighter.
Or you just don't do that at all, because if you want to, you can skip about 90% of all space encounters by boosting away from them. After traveling about 500 meters, they just ignore you and let you go, allowing you to go about your business. The platforming is a lot like Uncharted 2's in the sense that it feels extremely antiquated, except in Uncharted 2 it worked a lot better, because here sometimes Kay will just randomly let go of the grapple and let you fall to your death. Or sometimes she'll jump off the grapple in directions you weren't expecting.
Oh, where are we jumping? Why do we do that?
Sometimes she won't even throw the grapple.
Okay, Indy 5, here we go.
And sometimes the old gal can't even grab onto ledges.
Why,
The platforming is as mindless as you can get. You simply climb from A to B, and within that time, my mind has already wandered to something far more interesting. You don't need to put any thought into where you're going or what you're doing, and really it honestly feels like game padding. Yet you're forced to spend several hours doing this. But as my mind wandered, I had a thought. Perhaps the difficulty of this game has been perfectly tuned to fit the skill level of a video game journalist, to appear as though that it is a good game to somebody who really doesn't understand them. Because you know, if good old trustworthy IGN gives the game a high score, then a more casual gamer would be incentivized to pick it up. But this is merely a theory. The story is mega basic. Kay Vess gets roped into helping the Rebel Alliance break into a villain's vault, but she gets caught, so the villain puts a death bounty on her head. Then she's approached by another guy who gives her the opportunity to remove her death bounty by stealing from the very same villain's vault a second time, and selling whatever was in there so that she could make enough credits to pay the villain off and remove her death bounty. But the guy who hired her to do the heist is actually the villain's twin brother, which is bad. Turns out the villain doesn't even have money in his vault. Instead, he has secrets, which his twin brother intended to sell. But Kay gets a hold of those secrets and winds up giving them to some bounty hunter chick who had like 20 minutes of screen time across the entire game. And so when your plot is that convoluted and flimsy, you cannot expect people to sit through these cutscenes.
Calling in some favors. I hope.
But the thing is, I actually sat there and watched every cutscene, even though they were putting me to sleep. And by the time the story was over, I honestly felt like a buffoon, like I'd been duped. You know, that Kay's character arc was completely undeserved and made no sense. Like in the beginning of the game, she trusts nobody, and by the end, she trusts everyone, which kind of goes against the whole theme and feel of Star Wars' criminal underbelly. Because this part of the galaxy is extremely dangerous, and no one is to be trusted. Like at the end of the Solo movie, Han learned to trust nobody. And none of her crew did anything in the game in particular to earn her trust. None of the characters were interesting, none of them grew as people, the villains sucked, there was nothing good about it. And it was in this way that Outlaws was able to perfectly emulate the modern-day Star Wars experience.
What's on your mouth?
This year has been pretty bad for the moof milkers over at Ubisoft. Skull and Bones was the most vapid game I've ever played, X-Defiant was just another generic multiplayer shooter, and Star Wars Outlaws was a heaping helping of honking, stonking, bantha poodoo. And I'm certain that Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to be nothing more than a glob of Mantelian Savrip vomit. Stay tuned for that, by the way. I'm going to be making a video on it when it comes out. Ubisoft games have progressively gotten worse over the past couple years, with each new game pickling my processors, as I can't believe how low the quality continues to stoop. They need to understand that taking risks is not only okay, but is an absolute necessity when making a game these days. I mean, you gotta break the 9 eggs to make the 9-egg stew. I think we're most definitely going to be seeing some layoffs hitting Ubisoft after this. In fact, I hope we do. And I know that's an awful thing to say, but I think it can't come any sooner, because whoever's over there responsible for making all these trashy games needs to be let go. Apart from the environmental teams, the developers haven't displayed a single modicum of competence, and I'm sure some of them can already sense that they're going to be losing their jobs soon, feeling a sort of disturbance in the force, if you will. And I'll bet they're sweating like a gooped on Mustafar. Hell, if I made this game, I would be. And I'm so glad to be done with this game. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Girl, I like your waist and all the features on your face. Those glassy eyes are as gorgeous as the skies. They may never blink, which puts me on the brink, 'cause I'm falling in love.